I want to tell you about the kind of evil that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come from a dark forest or an abandoned building at the edge of town. It doesn't crawl out from under your bed at night. Sometimes, it sits across the dinner table from you. It smiles at you. It calls itself family. This is a story that was sent to me by a man I'll call Peter, a school teacher, a quiet, faithful man who, in the winter of 2022, took a job that changed everything he thought he understood about the world and about the people in it. Peter had been teaching literature at a small school outside of Austin, Texas for years. Good work, meaningful work. But the pay was brutal, and by 2021, the financial pressure on his family had become unbearable. One thing after another, the kind of slow accumulation that doesn't make the news but quietly breaks a household. He started applying everywhere. Any opening that made sense. Month after month, nothing. And then finally, a call. A mid-sized company based in Austin wanted him for a corporate training role. It wasn't what he'd imagined for himself, but it was real money, and he took it. He was told shortly after joining that he'd need to travel to Houston for a 2-week onboarding and training program. The company would cover everything: flights, hotel, the works. January 2nd, 2022. Peter flew out of Austin and landed in Houston. Now Peter is, and I want you to hold on to this detail because it matters more than you know, a deeply faithful man. Daily prayer, scripture, the kind of person whose faith isn't performative. It's quiet and it's bone deep. He'd been that way his whole life. And when he walked into the hotel that evening, something in him went still, not calm, still. The way things go quiet right before something happens. The hotel was nice enough, nothing unusual about it. His 3 colleagues, a woman named Ava and 2 men named Danny and Sam, checked in without any issue. They were laughing, making plans to explore the city. Peter smiled and said the right things, but the feeling didn't leave him. He told himself it was just travel fatigue. A new city, a new place. He'd feel better in the morning. He was wrong. That first evening, after everyone had freshened up, Danny called around and suggested they go explore the area. Dinner, maybe some shopping. They had 1 free night before training started. Might as well use it. They walked around downtown Houston, grabbed food, browsed a few stores. Ava picked up a box of sweets from a bakery near the market. Said she wanted to bring something back for everyone. Around 11:30 at night, they gathered in Peter's room. Just talking. The easy conversation of people who are just starting to become friends. Then Ava remembered the sweets. She ran to her room and came back with a box of desserts. Little glazed pastries, the kind that look harmless and delicious. Peter looked at the box, and something in him pulled back. He couldn't explain it. Nothing was wrong with the box. Nothing was wrong with Ava. But something, some instinct buried deep below conscious thought, made him say quietly, "Maybe let's save these for the morning. I'm pretty full." The others laughed at him. Sam said something like, "They're just pastries, man." And they helped themselves. One by one, Peter didn't touch them. Later that night, he said his prayers, set an alarm for 5 a.m., and tried to sleep. He was almost under when something made him open his eyes. Outside his room door, movement, quick, circular, like someone pacing. Fast. He lay there watching the shadow shift under the door gap, back and forth, back and forth. He told himself it was a security guard doing rounds. He told himself that for the next 10 nights. For those 2 weeks in Houston, life was routine on the surface. Training during the day, occasional dinners out, Peter visiting a church nearby when he had the chance. But every night, every single night, he'd wake sometime after midnight, and there it would be. That movement outside his door, that shadow pacing. He never opened the door. When the Houston training wrapped up, the company moved all 4 of them to their Galveston branch. A step closer to the coast. The 5 of them, Peter, Ava, Danny, Sam, and their manager Vincent, took the evening bus down together. By this point, a real friendship had formed, especially between Peter and Ava. The kind of friendship that builds fast when you're far from home with people who are going through the same thing. They checked into a service apartment near the Galveston waterfront. 4 rooms, same floor. Peter's room had a balcony that faced the street, a small park visible on the other side of the road, a few old trees scattered through it. That first night in Galveston, the breeze off the coast was something else. Peter stood on his balcony for a long time before bed. Cool air, the sound of palm trees, the distant hum of the highway. He left the balcony door open when he went to sleep. At 1:45 in the morning, he woke up. Dogs. A sound that every part of your nervous system knows is wrong. Not barking, not playing. Howling. A group of them, somewhere in the park across the street, crying at something he couldn't see. Peter got up and went to the balcony. The dogs were gathered around the base of one of the old trees, all of them facing the same direction, all of them making that sound. And standing just beneath the tree, a man. Peter leaned forward, trying to see better in the dark. The man turned toward him, even across the street, even in the low light. Peter could see that the man's face was burned, completely, the skin raw and ruined, and where eyes should have been, there was something that glowed. Not caught the light, glowed. Deep amber red, like the center of a coal that hasn't gone cold. Peter said later that he couldn't move, not because he chose to stay still, because his body simply stopped. Everything below his neck went offline. He stood there, gripping the balcony rail, and the figure stared at him across the dark street. For a full minute, maybe more. Then Peter closed his eyes and he prayed, quietly, steadily, the words coming from somewhere past fear. And when he opened his eyes, the figure was gone. The dogs had stopped. He went inside, locked the balcony door, and didn't sleep again until sunrise. The next 2 nights passed without incident. Peter began to wonder if he'd imagined it. Sleep deprivation, stress, the strangeness of an unfamiliar place. Then the 3rd night arrived. Everyone had stayed up a little late. Dinner ran long, good conversation. By the time they said goodnight, it was past 1 a.m. Peter had just settled into bed when he heard it. Ava's room was next to his, and from behind that wall, voices, or something like a voice, low and rhythmic at first, then louder. Then by 1:45, loud enough that he sat up. His phone rang. It was Sam. "You hearing this?" "Yeah." "What is she doing in there?" Before Peter could answer, Ava's voice shifted. It went low, heavy, the kind of register that a person's voice shouldn't be able to reach. Peter told Sam to get Danny and meet him in the hallway. The 3 of them stood outside Ava's door. They knocked, called her name. No answer, just that sound continuing from inside. Then something slammed against the door from the other side, heavy, like furniture or a body. Danny said, "I'm going to look." He crouched at the keyhole. What he saw through that keyhole made him go completely white. He pulled back and said, barely above a whisper, "She's on the wall." Peter looked at him. "She's walking on the wall, upside down. No clothes." Peter moved Danny aside and looked through the keyhole himself. Ava was lying in bed, still, asleep by the look of it. He stepped back. "Danny, she's in bed. She's sleeping." Danny shook his head and looked again. "I still see it," he said. "I still see the exact same thing." Sam looked. He saw what Peter saw. Ava, asleep, perfectly normal. They stood in that hallway for a long time, none of them knowing what to say. Eventually, the sounds from inside faded. They agreed to ask Ava about it in the morning and try to get some sleep. In the morning, Ava remembered nothing. She'd slept fine, she said. She looked at them like they were the strange ones. And yet that night, it happened again. Same time, same sounds. Danny saw the same thing through the keyhole. Nobody else did. That was when Peter knew this was something he didn't have words for. They found a temple on the edge of the city, an old one. The priest there listened to everything Peter described, and then he gave them a name. A man, an elder, someone who'd spent decades dealing with exactly this kind of situation. He only saw people on Mondays. Tomorrow was Monday. Vincent, their manager, cleared the schedule as best he could. He'd cover for whoever needed to go. Danny and Sam would stay. Peter, Ava, and Vincent would make the trip. When they arrived at the elder's home, a modest house on the outskirts of Old Galveston, the old man looked at them for a long moment. Then he looked at the space just around them. He said, "The one you're here about isn't here." Peter started to explain, said it was Ava. "She's been..." The elder shook his head slowly. "What's been following you since Houston? It attached itself in Houston. And it's not in her." He paused. "It's in him." He was looking at Danny. The room went cold. The elder explained. Whatever this was had been near that bakery in Houston, the one where Ava bought the sweets. It had been drawn to Ava first. Her warmth, her openness, it had followed her back to the hotel. But Ava, it turned out, wore a small red thread on her wrist, a blessing given to her by a priest months before. And that thread was the one thing it couldn't cross. So instead, it found the next available door. Danny. And every night since then, Danny had been walking out of the apartment in his sleep, going somewhere. The elder told them where. He said, "There's a cemetery 2 miles from where you're staying. He goes there at night, and he feeds." He said the word without drama, just stated it, the way you state a fact. What he sees through the keyhole is real. He's just not seeing it through his own eyes anymore. He told them it could be ended, but it would have to happen at the cemetery, the same place where Danny went each night. Tuesday was the right night for the ritual. He would need certain materials. He would handle 2 of them himself. Then he looked at Peter and said, "You, the one who prays. If you hadn't been doing what you do every night, it would have come for you first, in Houston, before it found him." They made a plan. Vincent would stay at the apartment with Danny, keep him occupied, keep him inside, tell him nothing. Peter, Ava, and Sam would go to the cemetery, meet the elder there, wait. Tuesday night, just before 1 a.m., they were in position, far enough back to stay out of sight, close enough to see. At exactly 1 a.m., Danny appeared. He walked through the cemetery gate like he'd done it 100 times, found his way to a tree near the center. And then, Peter says this is the part he still has trouble describing. Danny stopped being Danny. He reached into the branches above him, and what came next was something Peter refuses to fully put into words. He's a gentleman, a schoolteacher. He just says, "Danny fed." The elder began his work. A voice came from somewhere around Danny, or from inside him, that didn't belong to any human throat. It said, "Do you recognize me, Peter?" Peter recognized the face from the balcony, the burned skin, the red eyes. He was looking at it now, but it was wearing Danny's body. The elder didn't respond. He kept working. At 1:45, the thing in Danny looked directly at Peter and made one last attempt. It tried to cross into him. Peter felt it like a physical pressure, like something pressing against his chest from the inside. It couldn't get through. And then, slowly, and then all at once, it came apart. The elder completed the ritual. 2 sacrifices were made. The command was given, and it was over. Danny collapsed. He was unconscious before he hit the ground. The elder revived him with water and prayer. When Danny opened his eyes, he looked around the cemetery like a man waking from a dream he couldn't remember. Confused, embarrassed somehow, though he didn't know why. They brought him home. For a few days, life went back to normal. Real normal this time. The weight of it gone, the air in the apartment different. Then came the night the lights went out at the office. They'd stayed late, ordered dinner in. The power cut without warning. The backup generator kicked on after a few minutes and the lights came back. But in those few dark minutes, Peter noticed something through the office windows. 2 windows, side by side. And in both of them, shadows on the outside. Like something was pressed against the glass, up high. Like something was hanging from the exterior wall, looking in. He called out, no response. He told himself it was nothing. The generator came on, the lights returned, and whatever was out there, if anything was gone. He didn't mention it to the others that night. Late that same night, around 1:30 a.m., all 5 of them were woken at the same moment by a knock at their doors. Not one door, all 5 simultaneously. They all opened their doors at the same time, looked at each other across the hallway. No one spoke for a moment. Then quietly Sam said, "Peter's room." Nobody argued. They all understood. Peter's room was the safest room in the building, not because of the locks or the location, because of what Peter did before he went to sleep every night. They made it through that night. But the morning after, Ava wouldn't wake up. They assumed she was exhausted. They left her sleeping and went to the office. They'd check on her that evening. When they came back, she was conscious, but barely. Fever, vomiting, eyes unfocused. She deteriorated through the entire day alone in that room. Peter sat beside her and reached out to put a hand on her shoulder. She flew off the bed, pressed herself against the far wall of the room, stared at him, and from somewhere inside her, in a voice that was not hers, something said, "Don't touch me. Your God can't help her now. Get away from her." It looked at the bracelet on Peter's wrist, and it stayed exactly where it was. They took her to a priest the next day. No change. They tried a church after that. Nothing. 4 more days of the same. Each practitioner turning them away, unable to do anything. And with every passing day, Ava got worse. The company agreed to send her home to Dallas. Peter told management he wanted to bring her himself. The whole group would take a few days and make sure she got home safe. Vincent agreed. The night before the flight, Peter reached out to a contact of his, an elder he trusted completely. He described everything that had happened since Houston. The elder listened. Then he said, "There's only one place, Balaji Shrine, outside Dallas. That's the only thing that will reach her now." 2 cars. Peter rode in the front seat of the second car, next to the driver. Ava sat in the back between her parents. About 3 hours outside of Dallas, they stopped at a small rest area to stretch and get gas. Everyone climbed out. Ava refused to leave the car, sat there rigid, arms crossed, staring at nothing. Her mother stayed with her. The others walked around, got coffee, took a few minutes. When Peter got back in the car, he glanced up at the rearview mirror. Ava was staring at him, not looking, staring, fixed, unblinking. He held her gaze in the mirror and kept praying under his breath. Steady. The words automatic now, muscle memory. After a moment, something shifted in her face. A slow smile. Wrong in a way that's hard to articulate. The shape of a smile, but none of the warmth. And then she said, in a voice like something reading from a script it had memorized, "You just couldn't leave it alone, could you? You're going to be with her. You're leaving this world today." The car lurched. A truck appeared from nowhere, in their lane, closing fast. The driver yanked the wheel. The truck missed them by inches. Ava started screaming. Not fear. Something else. A sound that filled the car like pressure in your ears before a storm. Peter told the driver to pull over. He got out and walked to the other car. Told Ava's mother to move to the other vehicle. Brought Ava's uncle and her brother into their car instead. 3 large men positioned around her, holding her still for the rest of the drive. He got back in the front seat. He prayed out loud now. The whole way. He didn't stop. From the back seat, Ava's voice said, every so often, "You can't save her." Peter prayed louder. The Balaji Shrine sits outside Dallas in the kind of landscape that feels genuinely old. Stone walls, ancient trees, the smell of incense from 100 yards away. They'd called ahead. The priests were expecting them. A circle had already been prepared in the center of the main hall. The moment they brought Ava through the doors, she was screaming, fighting against the 4 people holding her, thrashing, pulling. The sound coming from her was nothing a person should be able to make. Then they sat her in the circle. She went completely silent. The examination that followed was methodical and long. The priests worked quietly, asking questions, studying, observing. When they finished, the head priest called Peter aside. He told him that Ava had been the target of a dark ritual. Someone had paid a practitioner, a very capable one, to use her as a vessel, to destroy her slowly from the inside. He asked if Peter knew who might have done this. Peter said he didn't know. The priest said it was her mother. Not the woman sitting in the hallway right now, crying and wringing her hands. Not Ava's biological mother, who had passed away years ago, her stepmother. Ava's father had remarried after losing his first wife, and the stepmother had never wanted Ava. Not the reminder of what came before, not the competition for what came after. She had found a practitioner willing to do what she was unwilling to say out loud. She had tried to remove Ava from her life, permanently. The ritual that followed lasted several hours. I won't describe all of it. Peter did in his email, in careful detail. But some things are better left in the space they came from. What I will tell you is that by the time the priest finished, Ava was sitting quietly in that circle, exhausted, pale, but present, back in her own eyes. They saved her, but not without cost. Whatever had been used against her, the ritual, the months of it living in her body, had left damage behind. One of her kidneys was severely compromised. She would carry that for the rest of her life. As for the stepmother, Peter didn't write about what happened to her. Whether from mercy or from not knowing, he left that part out. What he did say at the end of his email was this: Ava is married now, happy, building a life with someone who loves her. She still walks with what happened to her, but she walks. She made it through. I think about this story a lot, not the burned face in the dark, or the figure on the wall, or the voice in the car on the highway, though those things stay with you, believe me. I think about the stepmother, a woman who looked at a young girl, grieving, already without her mother, and decided that her own comfort was worth more than that girl's life, who picked up a phone or walked through a door and arranged for something to be done that cannot be undone. The darkness in this story didn't come from a cemetery or a cursed city or some ancient thing attached to a hotel hallway. It came from someone who chose it. That's the part that doesn't leave me. There are forces in this world we don't fully understand. Things that move in the dark, that attach themselves to the living, that follow you home from cities you've never been to before. I believe that now more than ever. But the thing that opened the door was a choice a person made. Be careful who you let into your life. Be careful who calls themselves family. And be careful what you ask the dark to do on your behalf. Because the dark always collects. I'll see you next week. Sleep with the lights on.